Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast, episode 142. We got the man Dan Scales, Amazon, in the building. Now, interesting story here. Just to preface, I do need to go into the background of this stuff. So, it was a cold Friday night in South Central Pennsylvania, probably approximately September 17th of 2017, right? And Dan comes into my room as a football recruit visiting campus. And that was our first interaction together. Our second interaction was probably maybe once or twice talking about homework here, maybe in like econ
homework back and forth
in 2018. And then we didn't talk for 4 years. And in July 2022, I get the DM, yo, I'm interested in learning about Amazon stuff. And what I said, you get that a lot, right? But didn't I say something like once you get the account open, I'll send you a lead or two or some shit like that?
Yeah. So even like to go back a little bit from that, the boy Dom Fusco,
great guy, product of the system. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Yep.
So he followed you on Twitter or something. I kept seeing your tweets on my thing, and like this is like right before graduation. I had the job lined up and everything, and I was just kind of not feeling it more and more by the day, and kind of kept like thinking like, oh, like I could see myself maybe trying this or doing this. So I just and then I went on vacation right after a little senior week, and I'd spent so much money, and I was just thinking like, okay, my salary's this. I just spent this over the course of like 10 days. Like that's not going to work to live like how we all want to. And so I just ripped the course. I was like, I'm going to buy it because I know if I buy it, I'm going to do it. And then DM'd Miles like, hey, yeah, just bought your course. Like, probably some random like newbie question. And you said, yeah, like if you get ungated in Nike in the next 3 days, I'll send you your first product. And I was sitting there, oh my God, like free product. Like this is sick. Like, so yeah, I think that was kind of how the first few interactions went and just kind of kept building from there.
So you are lucky, my friend, right? You have the South Central Pennsylvania lineage, or Southeast Pennsylvania lineage. So you are bred for greatness, right? If anyone listening to this, you aren't familiar, if you are born in South or live in, right? Either one, right? Southeast PA, you have a just shockingly, astronomically high chance of success with this stuff, right? And if you're from Southeast PA and you exist on the internet, there's a good chance you catch the invite to the next Hibachi Southeast PA dinner, which will be approximately early December when your boy comes back to do FEM for keyboard. But keep going with that, right? So that was like a year, 15 months ago or whatever, right? And then you were in like
June 2022.
June or July, yeah. And then you were in the back to school chat.
Yes.
Yep.
That's when things started getting fun for
cool.
Sure.
And then you just slowly build it up from there, right? One good item after another, right? And you were doing like mortgages or something at the time, right?
Yeah, so I worked at Fannie Mae, and I was rotating between different like financial departments. It was like kind of glorified like post-grad internship where you eventually get a job. And started just different like mortgage-backed security related stuff. I mean, very boring behind a computer all day. Got old pretty quick. So
and hey, well, you did a lot of good work to not have to do that anymore, which is pretty crazy because you have like, it was probably like less than a year or so until you're able to do it full time, right?
Yeah, I think it was just about an exact year. So I went through like 2 different departments there. I think I maybe made it like a week or 2 over the year mark, but
yeah, exactly. So it was like pretty cool that you're able to really figure it out so quick. And then we could banter all day, but you kind of want to walk through like, so currently what the setup looks like, prep center, VAs, what business model, that kind of stuff, scale.
Yeah, so I'm doing probably 80% prep center right now. I actually just switched to a different one because they quoted me at just a really good rate. But yeah, all wholesale right now, been all wholesale since about June. The reason kind of being for that was I knew I wanted to quit my job for a while. And in order to quit, I really wanted something kind of consistent, something monthly that was just reliable. I knew like, 2 hours, 3 hours of work, just replanning these items could replace my income. So that was like a must for me first. And so, yeah, doing all wholesale since about June. Prep Center, and then software, SellerAmp, of course, Keepa, and then I switched to Sellerboard, which I like a lot more, about 2 or 3 months ago. And then obviously BQL is the repricer.
So talk us through that. And so obviously we Miles and I are pretty close with you, right?
Oh,
But
I'm laughing just talking. Yeah, like
talk us through that like 2-3 weeks leading up to you ultimately quitting, because we know you had been talking about that for months, right? And that was the goal, that was the commitment. But like it's a big thing, right? It's a big deal. It's a big personal life decision. So kind of talk us through psychologically how you approach that decision.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I kind of had some goals for myself. Like I was talking about, like at least one really good wholesale account, and ended up getting that around April. So gave that like a month, kind of just verified, like, okay, I know I've replaced my income with this account. And the way it worked kind of at Fannie, I won't get like too much into the weeds, but like right every 6 months we were rotating through different departments. So I knew around like end of July, I was going to be switching again. And we already had to pick the next one like in May or so. And so I kind of just emailed like my hiring manager, or whatever, like, hey, like we have like a meeting or something before, just some questions about, like the next rotation. Just wanted to like talk to you about, what I was doing and everything. And I was kind of like nervous because just like, something like a lot of people maybe fantasize about, like, oh, telling your boss you quit, but I hadn't really thought about it. So it's like blurted out like, hey, so I'm just like gonna be leaving after this one, like peeling off, not gonna do a next department. And like it was definitely like there were some like scary moments. Like I think that month honestly even might have been like one of my,
I think it was one of your worst months.
Yeah, like
ironically.
But I could just like I could just kind of see the potential. I obviously had seen the potential in OA enough, and I'd seen like the wholesale potential. I was like, I think I made every mistake this month, and I still almost matched my Fannie Mae salary. So like
less time too, for sure, and way more fun doing it with the boys, right?
Oh yeah, but nothing beats the lifestyle for sure.
It's kind of cool how everything aligned though, because you and I obviously do most of our wholesale stuff together nowadays. Yep. But leading up to you quitting, we just had a couple of accounts just fall into our lap, right? Yeah. And it's, again, we talk about this all the time with a lot of the people that listen, right? It's a volume thing, right? You put in the outreach, you reach out to 50, 100, 150 suppliers, brands, whatever, and you'll get a lot of no's, you'll get a lot of rejections and a lot of ignores, but some of them will fall through, right? Some of them will come through. And it just kind of so happened that like with all the outreach that we had been doing, a couple of them just kind of landed perfect timing for you to kind of lay the foundation of leaving.
So you quit in July?
Yeah, like end of July was my last day. I had to let them know ahead of time though, so they didn't place me in a different like department for the following like rotation. So I had to let them know in like I think May, like early May. So they knew for a while I was out of there, and then those last 2 months were kind of just like basically full time because they knew I was leaving anyway. Sure. But yeah, kind of like even building off Garrett's point, I think like the biggest like advantage of wholesale, and kind of when people ask me like, should I start OA? Should I start wholesale? Like, obviously, I think depending on your capital, you have to start OA to build it up quickly. But for wholesale,
fluency,
but you're gonna spend like maybe 100, 200 different suppliers, like going through like reaching out, cold outreach. So obviously, there's a lot of upfront time with wholesale. But once you have an account, I mean, the hours spent on just existing accounts are only a couple hours a month, just replanting the same stuff. So you think about then how you can use the rest of your time once you already have one, go open another one, that's going to take another 100, 200 people to reach out to. Then you open another one, find another good one. Then you stack that onto the existing one. Now you're spending 6-8 hours a month just replanting 2 wholesale accounts, as opposed to like, in OA, you kind of have to be dialed most days, like couponing, searching, and all that. Like with wholesale, it's kind of just like compounding good accounts, a lot of upfront workload, but then, it gets much easier down the line once you've built up a few. So,
yeah. So for the viewers listening, this one would have been yesterday. But Nikki made a good point when he was kind of going through some of his talking points. He put it as eloquently as ever heard someone put it. He said that with OA, input is pretty correlated to output, right? It's pretty tangential in terms of what input leads to what output. But with wholesale, it's not. It's related, right? And so he was talking about like building up wholesale. You have to really dissect and separate input from output, right? Because you kind of talk through it, right? You put in hours and hours of outreach and you don't necessarily see that immediate results. And I think that's the tough part that really, and it was the biggest thing for me at making that transition, was laying the foundation and ultimately having faith in the outcome, right? Because you don't necessarily know when it's coming. You don't necessarily know when those accounts will come, but you have to have faith that at some point it's all going to kind of work out.
So what kind of gave you the confidence to dive right into it? Because you and I, right, for anyone who didn't catch that part of the intro, Dan and I went to college together, basically, right? And it's me, you, and then one of our other homies. Ironically, everything's kind of intertwined because you went to high school with Dom. I was neighbors with Dom freshman year, right? Garrett happens to live near us. You happen to live near us in Pennsylvania too.
It's just a weird circle.
And then it's like Danny and I went to high school together, right? Wi-Fi astronaut, Danny's here with us. But we're if I'm not mistaken, we're the only 3 entrepreneurs in either of our classes, definitely, that I know.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, no one definitely from either like, my high school class, like high school friends around home, or Dickinson, at least that I know of, that's doing really anything. Like Dom, obviously, of course, has like kind of not Amazon, but his own entrepreneurial stuff.
Oh, yeah, content. Yeah, exactly. It's
no one that I can think of, though, other than us. Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just interesting. You know what I mean? That we all happen to be, you guys both played football. I'm obviously an athlete as well, right? And then we were all homies with each other too. And that like we all kind of figured it out. Like I would always tell Dom, like, dude, like, trust me, you gotta try something like that. And then it worked, right? And he's also like the only one one of the only people who's ever really gone balls deep into it that I recommend it too. And it like worked for him and obviously worked for you, worked for me. It's pretty interesting how that stuff all worked. But we're obviously from like big corporate, like college, like people going to New York, stuff like that. People looking like at you like you're crazy for trying to do anything like that. So what's it kind of like in terms of like just your IRL people? It always interests me, like your parents, family, college friends, like what do they think of all this stuff? Are they skeptical, or how does it work?
I mean, it's kind of weird. It's like people definitely aren't skeptical of it. Like, they just don't really get it, and it's hard to have someone like get it.
So hard to explain it. Yeah. When you're
your brother kind of probably paved the way.
Yeah, so that's the parents definitely weren't tough. My brother is a music producer, kind of similarly quit his job back probably like 2017, 18, and then just kind of started traveling the country doing, you're making beats and everything. Now has started to work with some really big people since he got to LA. And so I know, like, my parents are super like, you do things this way. My dad was like, you're going to go into finance, you're going to make the most money there. And so, yeah, I have my brother.
You just got to give him 20 years.
You
just got to give him 20 years of precious life on this earth.
Yeah. So this is something that Miles and I have kind of laughed at, because I feel like he's had like a cheat code, because his parents were immediately bought in from the beginning.
Oh, right? Really?
When he was super young, his parents were always hip to it.
Me?
My parents, on the other hand, it took them years to come around.
I was just doing shit for like relentlessly doing shit.
You have been hustling for a while.
Yeah, like I've been doing online commerce every single day consistently since 2010. I would take off the winters in high school to play basketball, but like other than that, like I've been grinding content. I've been meeting people online. Like I was ripping Skype calls back in the day in 2010, making Lego things like crazy. But yeah, like I really did condition my parents. It took around like 9 years to convince my dad, but that definitely worked too. And
your parents have already seen the success, though, right? Because their parents.
Yeah.
Well, you were too in college buying all the used textbooks, because the school store would just give you like an absolutely atrocious price for them, and then you would come, and Dom used to throw you the leads too.
Yeah, well, he was showing love, and that's why I always show love to him. And because he like saw my early days too, and a lot of you guys can even go scroll back on Instagram and see that shit too. So in terms of like nitty gritty proof of concept, right? As you're starting online arbitrage a year ago, what's the first stuff that's really hitting? I know you were lucky; you started right before back to school. A lot of you guys listening to this, if you haven't started, you can start right before Q4, so you can latch on and get proof of concept quick. But tell us about kind of the initial traction.
Yeah. So again, I think you did end up sending me my first lead, which was I know it was
exactly what
the slides or something. And I mean, yeah, even just tiny bit. Like I remember just being so on. Like I think I bought like 10 each of like the 2 fastest selling sizes. Sent them in. Like took me maybe 5 hours to like create my first Amazon shipment. So annoyed. Like I kept.
That was 0 day. 0 day sold 20 racks in sales without ever having to do an FBA shipment.
Even made an FBA shipment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Anyway, yeah, those were my first good thing. And then, just kind of staying in the loop, like staying in the community. I think that back to school, really just trusting like everything, like FBM season, like FBMing tons of backpacks, driving to Kohl's and buying like the heritage bodies from like off the shelf.
So nostalgic.
I mean that like, I think one of those weeks, like one of those best weeks of August, I had made like $3,000 in like the past 7 days. And like, that was kind of like doing a lot of the FBM and backpack stuff. And I was like thinking like, oh, wow, if I can do this 4 weeks a month, like, okay, that's way over 10K, like, and then that kind of fueled into then last Q4 where, I mean, my basement just like, you couldn't even tell it was a basement.
Oh, you got it. Yeah, you got it. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, we need the bedroom full, basement if you got it, right? And then it should be an ongoing battle with your parents. For the young males listening, it should be an ongoing battle with your parents over the living room too.
Yeah, I think I got lucky. Someone was throwing out a ping pong table down the street from me. So I went and got it and just ran it home. Like I literally pushed it down the street back to my house. And that was like HQ for like November, December, like just, oh my God. It's like crazy memories thinking about now. But.
And so how does the PA mansion fit into the storyline? Because this is
Q, like story. Yeah.
Q2, right? Because that's when I had first met you.
This is January 20th or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that was at the height of the Stanley craze too. So like that was probably the biggest, like in kind of my journey to like really just going full time and just kind of just really scaling. And I think that weekend, like just being around everyone in person, like just the poker check out. Yeah. The poker night. Yeah. Poker, everything too.
Well, I think every day since that day, we've talked pretty much, we've texted like every day since. Yeah. And obviously we've made tens of thousands of dollars together since. But yeah, that was what the first time I had met you. And then I think
the second sentence I like told you or something, because I remember we talked about like that was kind of the first thing we talked about. I was like, I realized you were nearby and everything. I was like, oh man, I just really want to quit my job so bad.
You got to be brutally honest about that type of stuff. We were just talking about that with Nikki on the last episode. It's actually very similar. Super corporate, quit job within a year, athlete, Chad scale, like very similar story. Basically, but yeah, and then here we are, whatever, 6 months later, you're able to get it done. But yeah, that weekend was pretty fun because like our whole friend group flew in and we got this mansion in Pennsylvania and stayed in it for like a week and just like remember Romer dancing to like the rap music? That was amazing. The hide and go seek was lit too, actually.
Yeah.
Talk about that though, because like I'm sure that. Because I remember the moments that really validated it for me. Was that one of the moments that really validated it for you? Like seeing the people you had seen online walking around, that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and that's coming off like the Q4 high too, where like, hitting all-time highs, all-time profits, all that. And then just kind of getting right back into then like, obviously again, the Stanley craze and everything, and just seeing everyone like how honestly seeing the creativity of like how people do checkouts, how people beat checkouts, even in person, like, and maximizing stuff like, top cash back actually instead of Rakuten, top cash back was like 18% on those, I think back then. And yeah, I mean that another big takeaway from that too. Yeah, like that being a huge jump start into like even just being creative, like when I was still kind of in the OA game. And now in wholesale, creativity is probably just as important. Like we talked about.
Well, it's way more important because there's so much more leverage in that one account's infinitely scalable if you can set it up correctly. So it's theoretically way more important.
Yeah. And even just, like the outreach stuff, like people talk about it all the time. Like you're going to get no's. Oh, we already work with Amazon sellers. Like just kind of defining talking points. Like, how do I beat this? Like it's the same as a checkout online. Like, how do I beat this person? Like, how do I get this person to let me start buying from them? So yeah, I guess to sum all of it up, that weekend definitely was a big time jump start though.
And then we did the March Madness. Right in KOP, right?
Yes,
and then we played twos with PB.
And then we had a couple.
Did you run into Steven and PB randomly at the bar one time too?
Yes, in Westchester. I saw
the Super Bowl too. We didn't even talk about the Super Bowl.
Oh, I forgot about the Super Bowl. Yeah,
that's a painful memory. I don't want to. Gary and I had some money on that one. That was tough.
But it's interesting how Amazon becomes a part of your life, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it so much easier. And that if it can become, and I think I will personally say you can see a heightened level of commitment from anyone who exists on social media. If they're willing to put their name on the line, their face on the line, they're way more committed, and results find them way easier because they have a surface area of luck, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, when you know people that do this, it just skyrockets the chance of finding opportunity. And like, we've all gotten to know each other really well, you know, us specifically. We didn't even really know each other like that. Like, I definitely would have recognized you. I could have said your name. I assume probably could have said it for me, but we hadn't really talked like that.
Yeah, not on
right?
like a daily or weekly basis.
Exactly. Well, yeah, not at all, right? And then, you know, here we are now. We talk all the time. We hang out when we're back in PA. We got a really good squad. By the way, too, people listening to this, you guys see us in Southeast PA hanging out every time. It just makes me so sad that I could name the people in certain areas of the country that should be really good friends with each other, but they'll never meet because they refuse to exist on the internet. But like, if anyone would do it, it would be me. Like, I could create a very similar nucleus in Houston, Texas, in Los Angeles, in New Jersey. I could do it like probably pretty easily. But, you know, you guys are just, you're having to work way harder than you need to because you don't exist on the internet like Dan does, right? Dan posts a meme. You give us a sales update maybe once a month.
Yeah, it's nothing special, but, you know, I just
get the job done though. You can go to ASD and you can introduce yourself and you say your Instagram and they look it up. It's like, oh shit, like, all right, that dude's doing some stuff, right? There's a video of him walking in on Miles in the bathroom, scanning the soap with the seller. You know what I mean? It's that type of shit.
The only real one there.
Yeah, exactly. And so you actually do have a presence, right? What are kind of the things that people are out? Because you always talk about how dudes are like asking you questions and so like, what are the mistakes you think beginners are making? Because I know you deal with some of that just like in the DMs and such.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, kind of the cliche one that everyone talks about, obviously, but like, it's so true. It's just like, you know, not like going deep enough on stuff, or people talk about like when they kind of get to their next point of scale, going deeper. I mean, that's even something like talking with Garrett today, like that I'm starting to really do and stuff in preparation for Q4, like just entrusting in the biggest thing kind of that's helped me the past few months that I would tell anyone now, or I've been telling people to look at, is now you get on Amazon like a X amount bought in the past month when you go on a listing. And so like, obviously you already get that with SellerAmp, the estimated sales, BSR, all that. But for variations specifically, like if I want to know how like a size 6, like, you know, yellow shoe sells on this much bigger, faster selling listing, like, sure, you can gauge it with like reviews and everything and variations. But now, like, I think in the past couple months, this has been a development, or at least I just started noticing it. It will literally tell you at the top of the listing for any variation how many were bought in the past month, assuming it's over 50. And it jumps, you know, 50, then 100, then 200. So you can get like a really good idea of how many to buy of different variations for like a monthly stock and all that, which I think has definitely been, at least for me too, the past few months, the biggest value add, just understanding that and kind of optimizing that. But yeah, I mean, also just, I mean, trusting the process and stuff as well. Like, you know, I kind of just ripped all my chips in the table once I saw like the first couple of months of sales, and, you know, I was like, then back to school and everything, I was like, this is going to hurt, but I'm just going to keep spending and stuff. You know, just kind of believing in that, especially, I mean, FBM, like, you have such a low risk in that, because if I were to buy like 1,000 backpacks from Kohl's for FBM season and say I only sell 500, just go return them. Like,
yeah, I mean, some people some people might get a little bit mad about that, but the nice thing too is if you're buying what your homies are buying, like, I'll buy inventory off you in a heartbeat if it's profitable. You know, so like that, if we really want to talk about that, you know, if you're buying good products, and everything too. But yeah, some people definitely don't like that, which I kind of agree. I kind of see both arguments, you know what I mean, completely from the retailer side of things. Like, because like, I don't know, that I completely see both sides. And by the way, for anyone who's curious, Dan is also, he's up there with what some of the best Amazon hoopers actually.
Yes,
up there too, because that's a good matchup when it's me and PB against you two, right?
Yeah,
he's got that, like, he's got that Carlos Boozer game, like the undersized power forward who could shoot mid-range.
A little bit of wiggle. But the key,
the wiggles faded fast.
The problem is Garrett's such a mismatch on D though, that like because if you guard me, then Garrett's on Patrick, so that complicates things. Yeah.
Well, we've been in the lab. We're figuring out a game plan for you guys for next year.
Yeah. Well, the problem is it won't be warm for like 6 months too in PA.
You
So
gotta you can play through the cold. It's no big deal.
low-key,
We got the Miami conference. You got the Miami conference in
facts.
February.
And Dan didn't come to that last time. You redeemed yourself at ASD though. You did redeem yourself.
Yeah, I'll be there this year too.
He was late at ASC, barely.
I
He came
was
in like-
very late.
Yeah, but you came to Fogo though, right?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think I
okay.
got there like an hour before Fogo. So
Yep,
I just
yep.
had to like throw my suitcase down and pull up.
Yeah. Are you gonna be Chad scaling FBM for December? You obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of the rough plan I have is like obviously the past 4 or 5 weeks, I've just been loading up all wholesale stuff FBA. And then I think probably another week of that. And then kind of from mid-November on, just probably a lot more OA and stuff and a lot more FBM stuff from the OA stuff. So yeah, I mean, can't like it'd feel wrong to go through a Q4 and not do any FBM.
Well,
so.
and your ancestors like worked very hard to fucking give you the opportunity. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just sit here and not squeeze the wealth. Like,
Yeah, of course.
that would be crazy not to squeeze the wealth. With that stuff, what do you like mistakes you made last Q4? Because obviously a lot of people listening to this are looking to see that explosive growth that you had last year, right? So what are you think, whether it's mistakes you made or just overall things you think people fuck up about December and Q4 scaling? Because I'm gonna spit some game on this after you too.
I think definitely checking the buy box statistics to see what can be FBA'd and what can be FBM'd, because I know we got on the hook for not a lot, but a couple different SKUs last year. Like, it was kind of that, I think it might have been a Black Friday sale. Like, I could have FBA'd them, but kind of just kept holding on to them. And then, people were getting sales like that were FBA like $8 above people that were FBM. And that's something we could have definitely noticed in the buy box statistics and stuff, that it won't matter if FBA runs out of stock, but just like you can still FBA stuff late November and get
you're in Pennsylvania though, so you're very lucky. You're going AVP1. Most people aren't, right? But for those of you guys in the Northeast, basically the Northeast check-in times are really good. That's why I bring that up.
Yeah. And then I mean, again, just kind of just the going just way deeper on stuff. Like, I know so many different SKUs last year, like it's kind of like depressing, like, because I'd maybe have a couple hundred, and then Black Friday, it's just like shocking the volume. Like, Black Friday hits, the couple days after Black Friday, stuff starts really inflating. I'm like, oh, perfect. Like, got 200 of these sitting here. And then you sell like 75 a day for the next 3 days, and
then you're out.
And it's like, crap. Like, I could have easily bought in like 1,000 instead of 200 and really made some crazy money with that. So, I mean, just even when it hurts going deeper on stuff, like, if you're super new, like, it's probably, like, maybe don't go crazy with it, but it's still even just a little more than you even think. So you haven't seen the volume yet of Q4.
But that's where like this business starts to really compound, right? Because the confidence, the ability to take advantage and triple down on the really good opportunities is where you really see the scale. But that doesn't happen if you don't have the experience, or B, the network that you can rely on, right? That the friends that have gone through it that you trust, that say, hey, don't buy 50, buy 500, right? Don't buy 500, buy 5,000, right? To have either the
5,000 is a lot. I mean, that's
well, whatever, right?
500, yeah. That's what I like though. When we do these ones, it's a lot more informal and everything. But like, honestly, I mean, it's just kind of like I mean, I don't want to like oversimplify, but at the end of the day, like, for those of you guys that are listening, like, this is a prime example of like the correct way to do this stuff. It's like, from day one, you made sure you were consistently talking to other people that are doing this. Obviously, you happen to have some IRL connects that helped out with that, but other people do too. I mean, you got to leverage what you have and stuff. Like, you've had the Instagram page for like over a year, right?
Yeah, I started the Instagram page pretty quickly. I mean, I definitely wasn't super active on it.
But that's the thing. People have seen the progress. You probably have 26 posts, but people can see the progress. It costs you nothing to put that out, right? And it'll continue to pay dividends for years. And
it's even cool now, just going back and like, so I literally just did my this October versus last October thing. And it was like 13,000 last October, like nothing like super special to like just under 100 grand this October.
Oh, there we go. So 13K.
Yeah, I mean,
13K profit probably.
Yeah. And the other thing that too, like, that I kind of did when I started that, like, I definitely want to talk about a little bit is, like, I'm not like a huge social media person. Like, I don't like, super enjoy it. Like, I think it's important for the community aspect, but also just in like the Discord communities as well. Like, when I first started, I would look like at, like a flex your sales tab of like someone hitting 10K a month, like right around the time I did. And then like a couple different friendships that I still have today, like I would just message the dude and be like, oh, cool. Like, when did you start? Like, kind of just break the ice a little bit, start talking to someone. And a couple of those guys, like, I didn't have to be posting on socials necessarily to meet people. I was just being active in Discord and like trying to build like a network of people that were around the same wavelength that I was at the time.
Like the community needs the people putting out the content, but the community also needs the reply guys, the people that are there for the hype in the comments, the people that the Pickle Ricks of the world, right? The 0 days that are always hyping people up.
Well, no. Yeah, well, 0 days putting shit out too for sure, right there. But yeah, cool. So you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like you guys can do this stuff too. You know what I mean? Like you literally were brand new to this stuff, 15 months ago. What do you think? Are you think you can put up like 30, 40, 50K profit December?
Yeah, definitely shooting for that. Just it's gonna really be dependent on how much I thrust myself into OA the next few weeks, which is I'm gonna definitely do. So because I definitely have enough FBA wholesale stuff to hit probably 200K rev. So then anything over that is gonna just be more OA, more FBM stuff from there.
Boom.
But
there we go. Business as usual right here. So absolutely, yeah, it's fun stuff, right? Where can people follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Dan Scales AMZ.
Aren't you on Twitter too?
I think I tweeted like one time off my personal Twitter, but yeah.
Oh, damn! I thought I've seen you in the replies on some shit before too. All right, well, I guess
I have replied like just on my personal. Like I don't.
Okay.
Like it's a project for Q1.
Boom. Yeah, there we go. Well, it'll be the same thing. Yeah, go follow him if you want. Definitely follow him on Instagram too. See memes coming soon. Right. So appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for coming on last minute as well. See you guys in the next one.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Guys.